Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an outside broadcast. This is an outside broadcast special for those people in Sweden. This is an outside broadcast special. I'm broadcasting outside Downing Street for the purpose of a demonstration that's going to take place here. And as you can see, we'll be panning around and showing you. People are getting ready and getting ready to have a demonstration. The demonstration is the same as the demonstration we had last year, which was an Quds demonstration. And this is Quds who feel that they have the right to parade their flag and a right to walk around and demonstrate, flexing their Islamic muscle here in the heart of the British capital. Well, this is my second covering of the event. Excuse me, I got grit in my eye. This is the second covering of my event here, of the Quds. And yet again, we're going to have a demonstration. We're going to have people here representing the Zionist Federation UK, Sussex Friends of Israel. I'm hoping we'll also have a representative on behalf of the JNF. There will be some speakers, and of course Quds will have their speakers. And this is yet again another demonstration, another chance to have a bash, and another chance to try to explain to those people who are Israeli activists that it is unacceptable to present, promote, and encourage Islamic State-sanctioned terrorism. Anyway, this is just my introduction. All subsequent filming will be taking place from about 3 o'clock. Right now the time is currently at 2:32, 2:35. It is a lovely day. This is June, and this is Downing Street in London.
Supporters and organisers have started their march from the Home Office, and they'll be culminating where you see the big screen behind you. They're on their way. Their ETA is about 4 o'clock-ish, so we're going to start now. I'm going to hand you over to our chairman, Paul Charney, who will say a few words. He has a couple of speeches to read out from members of Parliament. So without further ado, I will pass you over to Paul.
Fantastic, everybody coming here again year after year after year. And the reason why we come here year after year after year is because we stand here and we say, Adkan, up to here, this is our limit, you shall not pass. You shall not go unhindered without us standing up and saying what you're doing is not only wrong, it's criminal. And you are criminals. And you are terrorists, and we will call you that to your face, and we will tell the people around here that the only reason that you are even free to be able to march is because you're in this country, a free country. The only reason that you tried to march across the Middle East and you couldn't is because they are not free countries. We know Iran very well. Nobody's going to fool us. We know what Iran wants. To destroy everything in their sights, to take over and destroy freedom. Their own people in Iran, the own Iranians, stand up and protest. We don't want to live in the country under this regime. Why then would we allow it in any free country to allow Iranians onto our street, to allow them to march Al-Quds under the pretense of the Palestinian plight? It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. I want to say thank you to all of you for coming here today. I want to say thank you to all of those people who will fight for freedom. It doesn't look like a fight, but let me tell you something. If we don't stand up on every single occasion, against every single action of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, anti-freedom, anti-democracy, then we give them a little bit. We give it away, and we won't do that. They will come here and march in their thousands, but they know, just like little Israel, no further shall they pass. No further. Now, I want to mention a couple of organizations. First of all, thank you so much to the Board of Deputies for being here today and supporting the representatives of our Jewish community. Thank you. Apologies from the Jewish Leadership Council, the JLC, who could not be here today, who give us their full support as well. I also want to read out a message, a personal message from our Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, who wanted to make it clear that this message needs to be read open in public. The message goes, all communities and leaders should be totally united in condemning any hint of anti-Semitism at this year's march. And we must have zero tolerance towards any support for terrorism on the streets of Britain. This year, I placed a proscription order in the Parliament to ban Hezbollah in its entirety. While this was passed, it was unfortunately the first time ever that the main opposition party refused to support the banning of a terrorist organization. Disgrace. It is now a criminal offense to display support for Hezbollah. Enforcing this operationally is a matter for the police, but they have my full support in doing so. And in such, I'd like everybody to give a round of applause and a thank you to those who hold our freedom and peace, the police. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us the option, the possibility to stand here and be free. I also want to thank the CST for their efforts, undying efforts, to be here, rain or shine, to help support the Jewish community and protect us. Thank you to all the CST. Right, I have another message which I'd like to read out. And this is a message from one of our bravest parliamentarians, a true hero of today. A friend of ours like this, we can only wish for, and God can only provide. The Right Honourable Joan Ryan, MP. Joan Ryan says, I am so sorry that I cannot be with you today. I am in the USA addressing an event about the rise of anti-Semitism. I would like to thank all of you for being here to take a stand against this festival of hate. Al-Quds Day is nothing more than an excuse for Tehran's warped worldview to be paraded here, right here, on the streets of London. It has nothing to do with the Palestinian cause and everything to do with the annihilation of the state of Israel. This march may once again have gone ahead, but we must not forget the victory that we secured a few months ago, the proscription of Hezbollah in its entirety. That victory ensured that the police will be able to take action against those who fly that disgraced Hezbollah flag, thereby taunting Jews and flaunting anti-Semitism. I would like to pay tribute to all of those, both inside and outside Parliament, who joined me to persuade the government to at last take action. Now we must redouble our efforts. Our struggle for peace, reconciliation and tolerance against hatred, terrorism, violence is one that is right and of which we should be proud. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a massive welcome to our MP of Hendon, Matthew Offord, who came to show us his support. Matthew, I've done this to you before. and quite recently. I wonder if you would come up and say a few words. Thank you so much. Well, it's a massive pleasure to be here today, and anticipating I'd be asked to say a few words, I have some in my pocket. Last year I said that we should not have been in central London attending such a rally as today. But today I was determined not to miss this one, because this is certainly a celebration for all of us who've been campaigning for many years for the proscription of Hezbollah. I remember in 2015 standing over here as Bibi Netanyahu visited the Prime Minister and seeing people displaying Hezbollah flags. And I took a copy of the Terrorism Act and spoke to the Gold Commander and said, these people, I believe, are breaking the law. They were recorded, identified, and no further action was taken. So since that time, I have lobbied 3 Home Secretaries, 2 Prime Ministers, Parliament repeatedly, presented a petition with 1,000 names of my constituents, and finally, in February of this year, I was delighted that Hezbollah has finally been prescribed in its entirety. Now, in advance of today, I did have a look at a website to see what was being said about prescription of the organisation. And people were being warned not to display objects which could describe them as being supporters of a terrorist organisation. So the message has got through. But the message really needs to get through to the people, in particular the government in Iran, the mullahs in Iran, who are the organisers of the Quds demonstration year in, year out, all over the world. Established to not only demonise Israel, but also criticise Jews around the world. They are the ones that next we should target. Particularly, I am concerned that following the nuclear deal, that I opposed that money and resources and men were sent into various conflicts in the Middle East, including Lebanon, Yemen, and of course, Syria. Now, some around the world do agree with my stance. Both Bibi Netanyahu and indeed President Trump agrees with that stance. But still, I am working upon ministers to ensure that there are sanctions against the Iranian regime. And until that time, I do not believe there will be peace in the Middle East. The Quds Day is a barrier against peace in the Middle East. It is a barrier against a 2-state solution. It is a barrier against the Palestinian people being able to live in a land that they can call their own, where they can work, have their own economy and live in peace. And it is a barrier to the people of Israel to be able to live in peace and harmony with their neighbours. But some people say, well, if you support Israel, you don't support the Palestinians. That isn't true. I think all of us here want a 2-state solution where people can live in peace and harmony. What I don't agree with is the terrorist actions of Hezbollah, Hamas and others. What I don't agree with is throwing gay people off roofs. What I don't agree with is launching thousands of rockets into Israel. What I don't agree with is using hospitals as weapons stores. And what I don't agree with is using children as human shields on the border with Israel. So I hope today that there are people listening, particularly in Iran. They should know that there are other countries who not only oppose their regime, but know what they're doing. And I don't mean the United Kingdom and the United States. I'm of course talking about Saudi Arabia, the open Gulf countries, the 6 of them, and the 21 Arab nations who have now called for Iran to stop interfering in the activities, the internal activities of countries in the Middle East. When that happens, when that stops, there will be peace amongst all countries in the Middle East, not just Israel and her neighbours. Iran is involving itself around the world. It's involving itself in Facebook. Facebook has taken down over 50 Facebook pages where Iran is attempting to involve themselves in activities overseas. And so we know what they're up to and we know what's happening. So today should be a celebration, and I believe it is. But I want to conclude with one remark about someone who is not here today, and that is Mark Lewis. Now last year, I'm sure many of you will have seen either the photographs of him or indeed himself standing in front of the protesters. Oh my God, that was a sight. Someone who not only suffers physically, but also professionally for his views. And I'm greatly saddened that Mark has performed Aliyah and has gone to Israel. But he's certainly here with us today in our hearts. And I'm sure that he will hear the message that he was successful last year. And I hope in future years that the Al-Quds Day rally never happens. And the wish that we want to see a free and peaceful Middle East and Palestinian people and a free and peaceful Middle East occurs. But until that day, I will certainly continue badgering ministers and I will continue to speak out. So I thank each and every one of you for coming along today. It is a great pleasure to be here, and thank you for all your help and support for Israel and our country, the United Kingdom.
Phenomenal. That is just amazing. Thank you so much. You really hit the right notes. And let me say something. We will stop Al-Quds March. We will continue to push against this terrorist march. And when they do, guess what? We'll still be celebrating Israel. Never going to stop. Never going to be proud. We will wear our kippot. We will be proud to stand up and say, I am a Zionist. I am a Zionist. And for all of those passing, thank you so much for listening to us. I just want to say, I am a Zionist. Now I'd like to introduce another fantastic leader in our community. Gillian Maron is a strong leader pushing forward for all the things, all the right things that we strive for, and has made great strides over the last many years. I want to thank you, Gillian, for all the hard work that you do, and welcome you to the podium to give us a few words.
Friends of Israel, friends of British Jews, Yom Yerushalayim Samech. Paul, you are a Zionist, and so am I. And so are all of we who are here today. And it's a real honour to join you all this afternoon to speak out against the terrorism of Hezbollah. As Chief Executive of the Board of Deputies of British Jews, I want to give a special thank you to our colleagues and friends at the Zionist Federation for bringing us all together so that we can stand together. Because today, as in previous years, we gather to demonstrate against the pernicious and vile Al-Quds Day. It is, let us remind ourselves, an Iranian-backed day. And all it seeks to do, amongst other things, is to delegitimise the only Jewish state in the world, Israel. It tries to distract from the failures and crimes of Iran and the many other brutal dictatorships in the Middle East. And it will not succeed. Because as Paul said, as Matthew said, things this year have fundamentally changed since previous occasions. For many, many years, the Board of Deputies, with our communal colleagues, has been relentless in working to urge the UK government to ban Hezbollah in its entirety. And this year, the government answered our call. And as the Foreign Secretary said in a letter to our President Marie van der Zyl, and I quote, "It is now a criminal offence in the UK to be a member of Hezbollah, to invite support for Hezbollah, or to organise meetings or wear clothes or other articles arousing reasonable suspicion that an individual is a member or supporter of Hezbollah. Let those who march on Al-Quds Day hear this. Hezbollah is now illegal in this country. It is totally banned." Friends, For many years, we have had to watch the shameful spectacle of people waving the flag of Hezbollah on our streets. And the fact is that waving the flag, yes, that flag with a gun on it, is all about support for terrorism, and it is a call for violence. We welcome very much that the Metropolitan Police have said that they fully intend to intervene if Hezbollah flags are flown at today's Al-Quds Day march, and we will all be watching. One moment. It's only lack of water that will stop me speaking. This ban sends the strongest of signals, because it's not just about Hezbollah, it's about other terror organisations who seek to undermine democracy and the rule of law in our country. And it is a clear message to the Iranian regime. Supporting and financing terrorist groups in this country, through this country, just won't work. And if you chant death to Israel or death to America, that has nothing to do with any kind of peaceful demonstration that we should see on the streets of our capital. We will always speak up for diversity and inclusion, values that we in this country cherish, and we will not be seen trampled on. Ladies and gentlemen, let us also urge other countries, especially Germany and France, to follow suit to ban Hezbollah in its entirety, as have many others already. And if they need any incentive, let's remember that the German intelligence service reported that there are some 950 Hezbollah operatives in Germany, raising funds, recruiting supporters, and spreading lethal anti-Semitic ideology. They have not gone away. Al-Quds Day does not set out to be a day that is about coexistence and peace between Israelis and Palestinians, or between Jews and Muslims. It is the exact opposite. And whilst Hezbollah fire their rockets indiscriminately on Israeli citizens, some of their rockets hit Palestinian civilians. Friends, that is a war crime. And we can remind ourselves that Hezbollah does not just target Israel. Do you remember, as I do, the bombing of the Argentinian Jewish centre, Amia? Do you remember the bombing of a tourist bus in Burgas, Bulgaria? And do you remember the arrest of the Hezbollah operatives who were plotting to attack synagogues in Cyprus? I remember all of those. And Hezbollah does not just target Jews. It has been complicit in the wanton slaughter of Syrian civilians in support of a brutal Syrian regime. They have killed their fellow Muslims and Arabs without pity and without remorse. For Jews around the world, there is no holier place than Jerusalem, the cradle of Jewish and Western civilization, the city of longing and home for the Jewish people. And it remains a holy place for Christians and Muslims and other faiths. And since the State of Israel took responsibility for the holy sites following the 6 Day 67, it has been equally accessible to Jews, to Muslims, and to all faiths. And so for me, the Ayatollah's declaration that the so-called liberation of Jerusalem is some kind of religious duty for all Muslims is for me a call for intolerance, a call for violence, indeed a call for genocide. So let this be heard. Al-Quds Day should never again serve as some excuse to give the haters of Israel a platform to express their contempt for Jews and the State of Israel. We are very thankful for all of the support that we have had from the government. And it shows just what our community can do when we all stand together. And the Board of Deputies thanks all of you for coming and for standing up for peace, for justice and for truth. Yom Yerushalayim Samech.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can see now still a contingent here of the this is the Al-Quds ahead of me. So you can see from the Al-Quds flags, the usual black, white and red and green.
Everyone who came from the other side, so to speak, they've done an amazing job.
Anyway, this is a really big demonstration now. This is a big demonstration.
Today, there's people here from the Tree of Life organisation.
Okay, here comes the Al-Quds demonstration. As you can see, all of the Islamic flags are represented, and they're going to have their bash in the display over there. Well, there's quite a big contingent for the Al-Quds down there. That's the other side of Downing Street, looking towards Parliament Square. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is almost coming to the conclusion of today's event down here in central London. It has been an interesting event. Just as noisy as it was last year, I guess. And just as purposeful. This is me signing off, and I'm now just going to enjoy what other people are enjoying and pack up this equipment, and I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Speaking from London, this is your foreign correspondent in residence, David Cohen for Cooltv-se. Enjoy, and until the next show, goodbye.